What's up and welcome back. You know what it is. This is the intersection of pop culture and common sense. And today we got a couple of common sense topics. Our first of which will be something I think is common sense. We're going to find out whether we are on the same page with this. Should the media, journalists, be allowed in the NFL, NBA, MLB locker rooms? We're going to discuss that. Our second common sense topic is going to be trying to wrap our mind around the decision that Marvel made to pull Mahershala Ali's Blade off of its 2025 release schedule. There's got to be a reason, right? And I'm going to tell you what I think about that. Then we also have our old standbys, the box office top 5. A big movie this week is Venom, The Last Dance. We're going to talk about how that is performing or underperforming at the domestic box office, and also what's coming to streaming and those types of conversations. So settle in, grab yourself a nice cool drink, and let's talk about this week in entertainment. I'm Tasha Pierce, and this is the weekly wrap up. Right, so first up today is this Paul George situation. Now, for those who have missed it, he's got this podcast called Podcast P with Paul George, and he's been speaking out about media access in the locker rooms. He's basically not a big fan. As a matter of fact, here's a quote from him from the podcast. So, in this episode, Paul George said he had lots of reasons that he has a problem with the practice of journalists coming into the locker room while the players are getting ready to go home. And he said one of his biggest pet peeves is clearly the way he believes that some of these journalists are looking at his and his teammates' private parts while trying to conduct their post-practice and post-game interviews. He said a majority of the locker room are naked when those reporters come in, and they're in towels. They just got out the shower, and you have these reporters in there, and they're not staring at a wall. They're staring at you. He also said that there are particular reporters who are more egregious about this practice than others, and further, other journalists are only in there to eavesdrop on players' personal conversations, and then they put out rumors and reports based upon what they think they heard. The NFL also has an issue with this, and quite frankly, I think anyone should have a modicum of privacy in the locker room at their most vulnerable times. Whether that be after a win or a loss, they shouldn't have to conduct interviews half naked. As much as I might enjoy looking at it, it's not fair to these men. In fact, can you imagine us having this same conversation about any woman's team, about any woman's sport? I know we all have heard the old saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If we don't want men objectifying and looking at us, coming in the locker room while we're changing to ask us questions about a game, if we wouldn't want that and it wouldn't be acceptable for women, why would it be acceptable for men? The NFL Players Association is also calling for changes to this policy. They want to move these interviews outside the locker room, and I think that's a reasonable request. Players deserve to have a safe and respectful workplace, and that includes having their privacy respected. Even if all of this stuff is just in Paul George's mind, he would not have to worry about these things if they weren't in the locker room. This whole thing raises more important questions about the media access in professional sports, period. I understand that the fans want to hear from the players after a game, but does that mean that they need to sacrifice their privacy? I think not. It's common sense. I think it's time for the NBA, the NFL, and whomever else this affects. They all need to take a serious look at their policies and make some changes, because a player shouldn't have to choose between speaking to the media and feeling comfortable in their own locker room. So this is an issue that's probably not going to go away anytime soon, even though I don't know what the hubbub is, bub. I'm still interested to see how it all turns out. But one thing is for sure. Two things are for certain. Players deserve to have their privacy respected and a peace of mind. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, now that the juices are flowing, I'm good and fired up. Let's talk about this Blade situation. This is a very messy situation. And honestly, I can't be alone in wondering whether this movie is going to ever see the light of day. Now, for the people in the back who haven't heard, Marvel's Blade reboot has been pulled from the November 2025 release schedule. This is after it has already been pushed back multiple times due to the pandemic, industry strikes, director changes, writer changes. It seems like every time we get a little bit of hope that this movie is coming, that they're going to start production, they hit us with another delay. And Marvel says, hey, this is because we want to make sure we get this movie right. It's a big deal, especially you got Mahershala Ali in the lead role. He's an Oscar-winning actor, and I think he's going to bring something special to the character, but they say they got to get it right. But at this point, I'm starting to wondering if all these delays are truly hurting their chances of not only ever getting this movie off the ground, but of holding on to Mahershala Ali. It's not as if Mahershala Ali is aging backwards. No matter how fine he is not Benjamin Buttons. So if your whole issue was we have to reboot the character with a younger actor that fits the times, that can play this role for many years, you are narrowing that window by every year that this movie does not come out. They keep saying, we're trying to make the best Blade movie ever. I appreciate that. I am an MCU head, so of course I appreciate that. But how long am I supposed to wait? I'm not getting no younger either. I am not aging backwards either. Meanwhile, Wesley Snipes, the original Blade, is out here making cameos in other superhero movies, reminding everyone how it's done. See, if you ask me, and I know nobody did, but if you ask me, Marvel is suffering from the Ryan Coogler problem. And I know you are probably saying, well, how big of a reach is she willing to make Ryan Coogler be a part of this situation? But I have reasons, my friend, reasons. And a lot of y'all probably think I'm crazy for saying that Ryan Coogler is playing a part in why they took that movie off of the 2025 schedule. Because Ryan Coogler is coming out with Sinners next year. Now, of course, it's not in the time frame. March is when Coogler's movie is coming out. That is starring Michael B. Jordan. And Marvel movie wasn't supposed to be coming out all the way until November. But Coogler's movie is a vampire movie. There would be a direct correlation between these two movies in the average consumer's head if they came out in the same year. Now, add to that the fact that we've been talking about this Blade movie since 2019. Ryan Coogler began developing his movie in January of 2024. Then Jordan was cast. Then Warner Brothers picked the film up, which I don't even know why Disney would allow that to happen. But anywho, Warner Brothers picks the film up. They did the casting for all the additional roles, and then they started filming that same month. Filming wrapped in July of 2024. And now this movie is scheduled to come out March 7th, 2025. We've seen a trailer and everything. I'm not saying that Coogler's movie is going to be good, but what if it is? You guys let your in-house guy, Ryan Coogler, go over to Warner Brothers, develop this film, cast the film, shoot the film, all of that. You allowed him to do that in less than a year, while you guys have been sitting on your thumb with this Blade movie since 2019. It's going to smell and reek of incompetence on somebody's behalf, and it's also going to make the average fan, especially the black ones who are wondering why all the black movies are getting taken off of the calendar. It's going to make us all wonder, why didn't you tap Ryan Coogler in the first place? Okay, so we know that would be a question. Why didn't you just get Ryan Coogler to do it? But then Marvel also knows that they can't half-ass a movie. They cannot half-ass a movie about a black vampire when we've already got a movie that they can compare to about a black vampire. They can't Quantum Mania this shit. You know what I'm saying? So at this stage of the game, Marvel's back is against the wall. They need a good writer. They need a good director. They need a good freaking idea. Because they already know brand loyalty to Ryan Coogler. We're going to follow him from Disney to Warner's. They've seen us do that with Creed. So they know that if they put out a half-ass movie, we are going to call them on it. And further, we'll lose all faith in them. We already have gotten to the point where I feel like Armor Wars has been quietly removed from their calendar as well. Like we don't realize that it hasn't come out yet. Do you have a problem finding somebody who can be the voice for that type of character? Because tell us that. We can make some suggestions. We've done very well at making suggestions for these types of things. But don't keep telling us you're trying to make the best movie possible when somebody started making the best movie that they think they could possibly make, a movie about a black vampire. They have made the best movie that they could possibly make, and they've done it in 1/5 of the time that it has taken you to make the concept of a plan. It just feels like excuse after excuse after freaking excuse. And I'm irritated. I'm a little tired of it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm still rooting for this movie. I think a Blade reboot has the potential to be absolutely outstanding. But Marvel needs to get it together. They need to get it together and they need to figure things out. They need to lock down a director, finalize the script, get this show on the road, give us confidence that you know what you're doing with this character. The fans are waiting. Mahershala Ali is waiting. And honestly, I'm waiting, but I'm starting to get impatient. So let's hope they can pull this thing together and give us the Blade movie that we deserve after all of this. Now, I do hear that we're going to get Midnight Suns prior to Blade, which is a choice. And as a matter of fact, I actually like the choice. If you are having that big of a problem nailing down a script, I can't imagine why. But if you're having that much trouble with the Blade movie, then put Blade in an ensemble with the Midnight Suns, develop an idea, and then let's move it forward from there. Because now it's starting to get preposterous how long we have been under threat for this Blade movie. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and we're going to move on. Before I go any further, I'd like to say a very big thank you to my patrons and channel members. You see them flowing across your screen right now. Thank you guys for keeping the lights on around here. If you too would like to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/Tasha Pierce, or you can click that join button right here on this here video. Or maybe you might just want to send me a one-time donation via Super Thanks or Cash App. All of those will be down in the description. Thank you so much. Y'all know what time it is. It is time to run down this week's top 5 movies at the box office. Our domestic box office top 5 roundup is as follows. Number 5, in its third week at the box office, it's made $4.8 million. We Live in Time. It has a 3-week total of $11.7 million. Dropping two spaces this week in its fifth week at the box office, The Wild Robot is still in our top five. It made $6.5 million this weekend for a running total of $111.3 million. In our number three spot in its first weekend at the box office, Conclave, which is a movie that people keep telling you don't go see because of its religious subject matter, and it makes me want to go see it all the more. In its first week, Conclave made $6.5 million. In its second week at the box office at $9.4 million, Smile 2 comes in second place. It has a running total of $40.7 million. And at number one, the story of the weekend has been Venom: The Last Dance. In its first weekend at the box office, it made $51 million domestically, which is a bit under what was projected. We'll get into that a little bit more, but just know worldwide, it's made $175 million. So the overseas box office is really pulling Venom along. So that's it for the box office top five. We noticed some differences, right? Terrifier 3 and Beetlejuice dropped out of the top five. They landed at numbers 6 and 7, respectively. But guess what? I would not be surprised to see those flip back into our top five for next week because spooky season, people may go to the movies to see something a little bit creepy this weekend and it may knock out one of the others. So we might see some motion there. This weekend at the movies, I think we have an Anthony Mackie flick coming out, and that's really sad that I don't know. Um, if it is coming out this weekend, it's coming out in limited release. I believe the name of it was Elevated or something to that effect. I'm gonna look it up and I'll know by the end of the segment exactly what the title of that movie is. Haven't heard a lot about it, so I really don't know how much I can tell you about the plot. But I think that is the next movie that's coming out. We have a bigger weekend, not this weekend, but the following weekend. We talk about Venom, The Last Dance, right? What happened? Why did it end up coming in so far under? And it really wasn't like egregious. An egregious amount domestically would be Joker. That kind of flop. It did flop though. Don't get it twisted. It has flopped. It's just not as big of a disaster as Joker 2. The reason why some people believe that Venom has flopped domestically is because it's going head to head this past weekend with a hell of a World Series game. So the LA Dodgers are playing against the New York Yankees, and that's a big freaking deal in the States. So many people opted to stay at home rather than going out to the movies. But they also may have stayed at home because the last two Venom movies, the first one, I wasn't a huge fan. The second one, I enjoyed a bit more, but they have not been anything that you need to run out the door to see. I'm not worried about spoilers. This is supposed to be the last movie. I'm not worried about hearing anything that might mess up my perception or implications for the next movies or anything like that. This was supposed to just be a fun romp, a fun goodbye to Tom Hardy in the Venom character. So people just may have opted to just stay at home, period. And that's okay because the people overseas, they ran out to go see it. Like I said, the overseas market is carrying Venom. Yeah, at the foreign box office, Venom made $124 million. So the people overseas are eating this up. It is just us in the States. We're all wrapped up in our little lives, and we've got a big election heading our way and the World Series, and we're distracted. So maybe that is the problem of the fans who went to see the movie. they had a strong reception to the movie. Of the critics who went to see the movie, not so much. So I'm kind of used to that, the fans and the critics being divided on whether or not a movie is quote unquote certified fresh. But a lot of times people say, who cares what either say? You know, you won't know how you feel about this movie until you go see it. So let me know if you did just that. Did you go see Venom The Last Dance this past weekend? And if you did, what is your consensus? How did you feel about the film? Let me know down in the comments. And now we're going to get to coming soon.